We're on DAF Pei Dalet Amid Aleph. We're at the two dots. And we had a statement from Rav Masya ben Charash. We actually had two statements from Rav Masya ben Charash in the Mishnah. One statement was that although the Chachamim say that you're not allowed, if a man gets bitten by a mad dog, you're not allowed to feed the person the liver of that dog. That was considered to be, by some, a remedy. The Chachamim had said that that's not enough of a proven remedy to justify feeding a person non-kosher food. And Rav Masya ben Charash disagrees, and he says it is enough of a remedy. And then it says, Va'od Amar Rav Masya ben Charash, then he said another thing, which is that if a person has some kind of throat illness, which could lead to a serious condition of asphyxiation or some other kind of disease, then you're allowed to administer an elixir, some kind of potion, to help cure the individual on Shabbos, even though normally refuah and the preparation of some compound is not permitted on Shabbos. Now, Rabbi Yochanan chash b'tzafdina. Rabbi Yochanan once had a disease called safdina. And Rashi says that it's a disease that begins with the teeth, but then it eventually spreads into the intestines. Someone has suggested that it might be scurvy. It could be a thrush. It could be a bacterial disease. But in any event, it starts off as non-life-threatening, but it could become life-threatening afterwards. So Azul Gaba dehahi matrunisa avdele milsa chamshu male shabta. So he went to a certain matron, a woman who was an expert in medical compounds, and she gave him an elixir that helped him. And he started the regimen on Thursday. He took it again, went back to her on Friday, and she gave it to him. And Amar la b'Shabbos mai. So he said to her, now, I can't come back to you tomorrow because it's Shabbos. What am I supposed to do? So Amar le'lo tzricha. She said, don't worry about it. You've had enough of the medicine. So imat tzrichna mai. So he said to her, yeah, but what if I have a relapse and I'm going to need it? You see, he was pushing her. He wanted to get the recipe for the compound. She was reluctant to reveal it to him. It's a trade secret, and that's her parnasa. So she doesn't want to reveal it. It's almost like the pharmaceutical companies today, right? They need to make a little bit of money, so they're not going to reveal. They're not going to be interested in revealing their trade secrets. So Amrulay ishtabali dlo maglis. Swear to me that you won't reveal the recipe. I'll give you the recipe, but you can't. You have to swear to me that you won't reveal it. So ishtaba. So he basically ishtaba la elaka di Yisrael lo maglina. So he swore to her as follows. He swore, I swear to the God of Israel that I will not reveal. So nafak darsha b'pirka. The next day, when he gave his Shabbos morning drasha to the throngs, he said, oh, by the way, if you want a good recipe for this disease, here it is. Now, you're saying scandalous, right? Rabbi doesn't keep his word. So, v'ha'ishtabala le'elaka di Yisrael. Didn't he swear to the God of Israel? So he said to her, lo maglina, or le'elaka di Yisrael lo maglina, hala'ama Yisrael maglina. He swore to the God of Israel he won't reveal, but to the people of Israel he would reveal. Now, what is his rationale for doing this? It's pikuach nefesh. So for pikuach nefesh, I have the opportunity to save lives in my community. This woman is hoarding the cure because she wants to make a killing on the market. But not everyone has money to go to this apothecary. And so therefore, I have a responsibility to share it with others. He's lying, he took a false shvuah. It wasn't a false shvuah. Then the Gemara says, Hashem. But look at her, she's going to look at him and she's going to say, well, these rabbis are a bunch of scoundrels. So the Gemara answers, no, de megali la me'ikara. So the answer is that as soon as she gave him the recipe, he said to her, Madam, I know that I took an oath to you, but I want you to know I'm going to reveal this secret now because it's my responsibility as a leader of my community. It's my duty to do so. Now, she may have been very upset with him, but at least it wasn't a chilul Hashem anymore because he explained to her his rationale for doing it and that he wasn't lying. Okay, my avdulay. So now the Gemara says, okay, tell us now what's the recipe. Don't keep it for yourself. What did she give him? So Amar Ravacha Berei de Ravami, Mesa or Shemen Zayis Umelech. Just three simple ingredients: yeast water, olive oil, and salt. Rav Yemer Amar Sa'or Gufei Shemen Zayis Umelech. He has a slightly different recipe. It's actual yeast, not the water from the yeast, but the actual yeast, olive oil, and salt. Ravashi Omar Mishcha de Gadfa de Avza. He says it's a different recipe. What you're supposed to take is the marrow of a bone from a wing of a bird. A certain wing of a bird has a certain kind of marrow, and you use that, and Rashi says you massage it on your temples. I don't know why. Some say that it's your teeth. That makes more sense. That Girsada says you're supposed to massage it on your teeth, and that will be the therapy. Amar Abaya, ana abi lakulhu velo itzoy. Abaya says, I tried all of those things. It didn't work. Mishfar helfen. Ada Amar li hahutaya aisi kashyosa dezeis lomalu tilsa. He says, until an Arab one day came to me and said, I have the right cure. He says, take the pits of olives that have not even grown a third. So there's a certain immaturity but a potency to them. Take the pits of those olives, the kalinu benura mora chadata, burn them in fire until they become ash, but burn them on a new metal shovel, it seems like, or a new metal hoe. I don't know why specifically that material. Va'adbik bekachi dore, and then you should take the ash and adhere it to your gums, and that will cure you of this disease. Avdi hachi vitzoy, and I did it, and I was cured. So mimai hava, how does a person get this disease that we called tzafdina? The Gemara answer is mechamimi chamimi dechiti. If a person eats too much hot bread, then wheat bread, then that white bread, that could happen. Umishiure kasa daharsana. Or if he eats leftover fish hash that was left out overnight, that could also cause you to contract it. Umay simne, what are the symptoms of this disease? Kadrami midi bekache va'asidama mi beidari. That if you apply anything to your teeth, any pressure, anything that touches your teeth, blood starts flowing from the gums, like a gingivitis or something like that, right? Okay? So Rabbi Yochanan kichosh b'tzafdina avid hachi b'shabta v'itzi. That when Rabbi Yochanan developed tzafdina, he went through this regimen of using this woman's apothecary recipe, and he was cured. And he did it on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, "Rabbi Yochanan heichi avid hachi." Rashi isn't even goyris this. We'll read it anyway. What was Rabbi Yochanan's rationale for doing this? Ayat Shabbos. Amar of Nachum bar Yitzchak shani tzafdina holo maskal b'peh v'gomer b'vnei me'ayin. The answer is that this is a potential sakana, because even though it starts off with only mild symptoms in the mouth, it could spread to the intestines and be a fatal disease. Amrle Rav Chia bar Abel Rabbi Yochanan Kaman Rav Masya ben Charash Damar Achoshesh Befiv Matilon Losam b'Shabbos. It sounds like Rabbi Yochanan is going according to just Rav Masya ben Charash, who was the only one in our Mishnah who said that if a person has some kind of throat illness, he's allowed to administer an elixir on Shabbos. So Amrle Shani Omer Bezu V'lo Ba'acheres. So Rabbi Yochanan responded, no, it's not that I paskin like Rav Masya ben Charash. I hold that the Chachamim agree to Rav Masya ben Charash, and they hold also that you're allowed to administer that elixir on Shabbos. In this, and not in anything else, in this the Chachamim agree to Rav Masya ben Charash. It's the other one that they don't agree with him. So Lema Misayele, let us suggest that the following brisa supports Rabbi Yochanan's contention. Misha achso yarkon ma'achilin oso b'sarcham, or the brisa says that if a person is overtaken with jaundice, we give him donkey meat. Misha nashcho kelev shoyte ma'achilin oso mechatzar kaved shalo. If a person is bitten by a mad dog, you feed him the liver lobe of that dog. B'achoshesh b'fiv matilin losam b'shabbos divrei Reb Masya ben Charash. And if a person has some kind of mouth or throat illness, you would administer an elixir on Shabbos. That's all according to Reb Masya ben Charash. The Chachamim omrim be'elu ein b'hem mishum refuah. The Chachamim use a strange language. They say, for these, there is no legitimate right to administer them as a refuah because they're not a proven remedy. Now, the fact that they said be'elu is a delimiting word. Why did they have to use a delimiting word? What were they trying to exclude? Be'elu li'me'utei mai, lav li'me'utei sam. It sounds like maybe they were only prohibiting using donkey meat and the liver of a dog, but perhaps they were agreeing that the administration of an elixir on Shabbos is permitted. And that would prove the point that everyone agrees that the administration of an elixir is okay. So the Gemara says, Lo limaute makizin dam l'srunchi. No, there's a fourth thing that is the subject of discussion, which is bloodletting for a disease called surunchi, which someone told me this morning from the art school they translated as diphtheria. Bob, what is diphtheria? What is it?
An infection in the throat. We just don't see it. The kids all get immunized now,
Yeah.
So it forms a membrane over the back of the throat and causes trouble breathing.
So, okay.
Because it's
thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Good to have a doctor in the share.
Yeah, no.
It's an oral exam.
That's right.
We're
going to report you to the Board of Health if you don't answer these questions correctly. Right. So anyway, so the thing is that they used to do a bloodletting if a person had this surunchi disease, and that's where the Chachamim agree to Reb Masya ben Charish. But it could be that they disagree with him on the administering of an elixir on Shabbos. So Hachanami Mistavra, it makes sense to say that. The Gemara says, "The Tanya Shlosha Dvarim Amar Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yossi." There's another brisa that says that Rabbi Shmuel ben Yossi said that there are three things Sheshama Mishum Reb Masya ben Charish that he heard from Reb Masya ben Charish that you're allowed to do. Makiz and Dam l'Srunchi b'Shabbos, that you're allowed to let blood on Shabbos if a person has this Srunchi disease. And if a person is bitten by a mad dog, you can feed him the lobe of the liver of that dog. And if a person has a mouth or throat illness, you can administer the elixir on Shabbos. And there the Chachamim are quoted as saying, Be'elu, again the delimiting word of Be'elu, Ein Bahem Mishum Refuah, that there is no proven remedy for any of these things. So Be'elu le'mu'utei mai, what are they coming to exclude from that statement? Lav atarti basraisa v'le'mu'utei dereisha. May we conclude that they're saying we disagree with the latter two, and we hold that you're not allowed to give the patient the dog liver, and you're not allowed to give the patient the elixir on Shabbos for the throat illness, but you are allowed to let blood. So it makes sense to say that the Chachamim do disagree on the administration of the elixir. So the Gemara says, Lo atarti dereisha kamaisa v'limute deseifa. So the Gemara says, no, not necessarily so. Maybe the Chachamim are coming to disagree on the first two cases, the case of letting blood and the case of the dog liver, but maybe they agree with Reb Masya ben Charish on the elixir. So the bottom line is, says the Gemara, you have no proof one way or the other, neither from our Mishnah, nor from these two brises, whether the Chachamim agree or disagree with Rav Masya ben Charash as far as whether it's mutter to administer this elixir for this throat illness on Shabbos. But now let's look at another brisa. Tashma, the Tani Rabba Bar Shmuel, Ubra Shehiricha Ma'achilan Oso Ad Shetashuv Nafsha. The brisa says that if a woman is pregnant and she smells an aroma and she starts to have a craving, you feed her even on Yom Kippur until or even if the food is non-kosher, until her craving goes away. And if a person is bitten by a mad dog, you feed the person the dog liver. And the third case is that if a person has this throat or mouth disease, you can administer an elixir on Shabbos, and this is according to Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi, once again quoting Reb Masya ben Charish. V'chachamim omrim bizu v'lo ba'acheres. And the Chachamim say, no, only in this, but not on the other. Now, what do they mean? With this, we agree. Which one do they agree to? Bizu ahaya. Which one do they agree to, Reb Masya ben Charish, of the aforementioned three of this brisa? Ilei ma'a ubra pshita, ubra mi'ika laman damer delo. They can't be coming to agree with Masya ben Charish about a pregnant woman who has a craving. That's overly obvious. Everyone agrees that if a woman is pregnant and she has a craving, you feed her no matter what. So you don't even need the Chachamim to even comment on that. So Ela what? Elalav asam shmamino. So they must be coming to comment on the last case of the brisa, which is the administration of an elixir on Shabbos. So you see that the Chachamim do agree with Rav Masya ben Charish that it is permitted. This brisa does prove that even the Chachamim agree. So therefore, when Rabbi Yochanan said that it's permitted, he's not just paskening like Rav Masya ben Charash, he's going l'kuli alam, he's going according to everyone. Ravashi Omar Masnisa Namidika. Ravashi says you can actually infer that from the language of our Mishnah as well. Why? Because it says Va'od Amar Rav Masya ben Charash Achoshish Befiv Matilin Lo Sam B'Shabbos V'Lo Pligi Rabbanan Alei. Because let's look at the structure of our Mishnah. First, the Chachamim said, don't give a person the dog liver if he gets bitten by a mad dog. Rav Masya ben Charash says, yes, you can. It's a proven remedy. And furthermore, Rav Masya ben Charash said, you give a person an elixir on Shabbos. And there the Chachamim don't disagree with Rav Masya ben Charash. V'im isa the pligi rabbanon alei, li arvinu v'lisninu v'liflugu rabbanon b'seifa, shma mina. If there was a machlokas between Rav Masya ben Charash and the Chachamim on both cases, both on the dog liver and the elixir, then the structure of the Mishnah would have been more efficient if it would have said as follows. Rav Masya ben Charash says that you're allowed to feed a person a dog liver and you're allowed to administer the elixir on Shabbos, and the Chachamim disagree. That's the way the Mishnah should have been written. But it doesn't write it that way. It divides the two cases, and that proves to you that in the second statement of Rav Masya ben Charash, where the Chachamim don't comment, they actually agree that it's permitted to administer the elixir on Shabbos. Okay, that's the final conclusion. And let us go on. The Mishnah had commented and said, after saying all of these things that you're allowed to administer on Shabbos, why? Because even the Safek Nefashos, even if a person is in doubt, you're allowed to say you violate Shabbos in order to save even a Safek, even if it's a Safek, whether his life is in danger. That statement is superfluous because the Mishnah previously said that a throat illness is a Safek Nefashos. So why did you have to make that statement all over again, that for Safek Nefashos you violate Shabbos? Why did you have to even make that statement? That's self-evident. So that's the Gemara's question of Lama Lisula Meimar B'chol Safek Nefashos Doches Shabbos. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, so he answers as follows: Lo Safek Shabbos Bilvad Amru Ela Filo Safek Shabbos Acheres. That what the point of our Mishnah is that not only may you violate Shabbos today if his life is in danger today, but even if his life is not in danger today, but there's a future danger that can be averted by administering a therapy now, then you're obligated to violate Shabbos. In other words, as the Gemara will explain, Heichi Dami, give me an example of where this is relevant. Kegon de Amdua letamanya yome v'yoma kama shabta. Mahu detema liakev ad luurta ki heichi de lo nechel alei trei shabta kamash malon. The example would be as follows. Let's say a person presents with symptoms today on Saturday. The doctor says he needs a certain medication for 8 days. Antibiotics would be a perfect example. So you say, well, listen, if he's going to need the remedy for 8 days anyway, so we're going to have to violate Shabbos a week from today now anyway, no matter what. Why don't we wait until after Shabbos before we start the antibiotic? Let's wait until Sunday, so that way we'll only end up violating one Shabbos next week instead of violating 2 Shabbosos by making the compound today.
But if it's not Pikuach Nefesh...
But this is the point. It's Pikuach Nefesh because even by delaying a day, you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk. Why? In other words, you're right. His life is not in danger today. If you delay it by 1 day, he's not going to die today. But his condition could worsen to the point where the medication will have less of a chance of curing him by that delay. And therefore, you don't have a right to delay in order to minimize Shabbos violation. Okay, because as soon as you see that this person's life could potentially be in danger, you're obligated to administer the cure, even if it involves violating 2 Shabbosos instead of 1 Shabbos.
So it lowers the bar of Suffolk, isn't it?
Yeah, it minimizes the Suffolk. Tanya Nami Hachi, we have a brayso to support this. Mechamin chamin l'chayla b'Shabbos, bein lahashkoso, bein lahavroso. That you're allowed to heat up water on Shabbos for a sick person, whether to give him to drink or whether to bathe him. V'lo Shabbosu bilvad amru elo l'Shabbos acheres. And that's not only true if his life is in immediate danger, but even if it'll help to avert a danger for a future Shabbos, because let's say by administering the therapy today, you'll be able to preserve his health even more down the road. So then you're allowed to violate Shabbos for that purpose. In other words, it doesn't have to be a therapy which results in immediate cure. Even if the cure is not going to come until some time, it'll be therapeutic perhaps in a couple of weeks from now. You still violate Shabbos today.
Isn't that the same thing? I mean, the first and the second example just now.
Yeah, we're just bringing a brayso to support that, to support the first assertion. Ve'ein omrim namtin lo shema yavrui, and we don't say, well, let's wait, maybe the guy will get better, and we don't have to violate Shabbos, ela mechama lo miyad, but rather you heat up the water right away, b'pnei shesafek nefashos toches haShabbos, because even a suffix of life overrides Shabbos, v'lo suffix Shabbos zu, ela filo suffix Shabbos acheres, and not only a suffix for this Shabbos, but even a suffix for a future Shabbos. And furthermore, the Brisa says, "Ve'ein osin dvarim halalu lo al yedei Menachem v'lo al yedei kusiyim, ela al yedei Gedalia Yisrael." And furthermore, we don't rely on Gentiles or on Kusim, who are these Samaritans, right, to do it for us, but rather we use Jews. It's dafka a mitzvah to have a Jew do it, because once there's a mitzvah of pikuach nefesh, why should I give my mitzvah to a non-Jew? There's a mitzvah for me to violate Shabbos now, so that I can save a life. Don't give it to someone else to do. It's a mitzvah for the person to do it. Ve'ein omrim yasu dvarim halol lo al pi nashim v'lo al pi kusiyim ela mitztarfen l'das acheres. And this last statement is a bit controversial, and that is as follows. And Bob, I ask you, don't share this with Esther. You'll see why in just a second, because it says that if there are medical how are you supposed to know whether the person is truly in danger or not? You rely on medical experts. But the medical experts cannot be women, and they cannot be kutim, because these Samaritans, because they don't have reliability.
Shut the machine.
Yeah, shut the camera.
Rashi doesn't comment on that again.
Right. However, the only time that you would rely on a woman or a kusi is if you have a difference of opinion among Jewish medical experts, and you have two doctors who say that he's not in danger, and one doctor says that he is in danger. If Dr. Esther Liebman says that he's in danger, she can count to be on the side of the other doctor, and she evens out the debate, and therefore you side with them, because it's 2 against 2, and then it becomes suffix nefashos.
It happens all the time.
Right. That's why I say. Now, the question is, why is that? And this really does require further analysis. I don't think that this is halacha l'maisa. Okay? I just want to make that clear. I don't believe this is halacha l'maisa, but it needs further analysis. All right. Now, Tana Rabbanan. Mefakhin pikuach nefesh b'Shabbos. The Brisa now says that you do whatever it takes to save life on Shabbos, v'hazoriz harezim meshubach, and the more quick you are to act, the more quick you are to violate Shabbos, the more praiseworthy you are. Ve'ein tzarach litol rishus mi beistin, and don't wait to ask a shayla. In other words, because if you wait, like a true story, I once heard a news story on the news about an apartment building that had caught on fire in New York City. And the rabbi that lived in the apartment building said, I have to research it, whether we're allowed to put out the fire. And by the time he finished researching it, the place burned down to a crisp. He says, you're not... So in other words, don't...
The safer burnt down.
So in other words, don't ask shilas. Just, even if there's a suffix that a person's life is in danger, you have to immediately go ahead.
Even though it's too late.
Yeah, right. So ha-ketzad. So what's an example of this? Ra'a tinok shenafal liyam. If you see a child that fell into the sea, pores mitsudo ma'aleyu. Cast the net immediately, even though we'll see there's a malacha involved, and try to get him out. V'hazariz harezim meshubach. The more quick you are to act, the more praiseworthy. Vein sarach litol rishus mi beistin. You don't have to ask shilas. The afal gab the kotzayid kevari. And even though you're doing a malach of catching fish on Shabbos, because the fish will come into the net also, it's not a consideration at all. Ra'a tinok shenafal labor. Next example, you see a child that falls into a well, and the child's hanging on to the side for dear life, into one of the bricks on the side of the well. So oker chulio ma'aleo, you can immediately start dismantling the wall of the well so that you can get a better foothold and grab the kid and pull him out. V'hazariz harezim meshubach. The more quick you act, the better. Don't ask a shayla. And even though the malacha that you're doing is dismantling and creating a step, it's still okay. The third example is if you see that a child gets locked behind the door, and there's a fear that the child, because it's like a 1-year-old child, he could be in danger, he could hurt himself, he could jump out the window, who knows what's going to happen in there. So shovra umotzia. So you immediately break down the door and pull out the child. V'hazoris hareza meshubach, ve'ein tzarich lito rishus mi beistin, ve'afal gavdecha mechavin lemitvar b'shifi. And don't ask shilas, be quick to act. And even though you may be doing a malacha, because by breaking down the door you may be able to harvest wood, boards of wood, which may be a side benefit, it's not a consideration. Fourth example, that you're allowed to extinguish a flame if it presents as danger to life, or at least to put barriers like a barricade of water jugs you can put in front of it, and the more quick you are to act, the more praiseworthy. You don't have to ein tzarich lital rishus mi beistin be'afal gav dekom mamchich mechuche. And even though, as a byproduct of your extinguishing, you may be creating hot coals that you can use for cooking for your malava malka, it's not a consideration. Utzricha. Now, why did you need 4 examples? That's the question. Di'iyashmi inan yam mishum da'ada hachi v'hachi azulei aval bor dekayasiv emelo utzricha. I'll tell you why. If I would have only given you the example of the child that falls into the ocean, you might have thought, okay, there you can be Mechalel Shabbos, because if I wait even a moment, the child could get washed out to sea. But if a child falls into the bore, it's not so terrible if I wait a few minutes to ask a shaila, because the kid's not going anywhere. Right? No. You immediately violate Shabbos. V'i yashmin and bor mishum tekam mivaya, mivis rather. The case of the bore, maybe there I can violate Shabbos because the child is petrified, and if I don't do something quickly, he may act erratically and drown, God forbid. But if a child gets locked behind the door, I can calm the child because he's not in an environment to petrify him, and therefore maybe like if I shake a rattle or something, I'll be able to calm the child down on the other side of the door, and therefore maybe I shouldn't have a right to break down the door right away. No. The Gemara says even if there's a suffix, because you don't know what's on the other side of the door with that child, break down the door right away. Make sure the kid's not on the other side of the door when you break down the door, though. Okay, mechaber umafsikin. And the 4th example is lamali dafilu lechatzer acheres. The chiddush there is that even if there are occupants in a different chatzar that's adjacent to where this fire is, and the place where the fire is empty, but if you don't put it out now, the fire could potentially spread into the adjacent chatzar. That's the chiddush. Put it out even then.
That's the heter in your house in Shabbos.
Absolutely, that's the heter. If you live in a neighborhood where there are you look across the street. Look at how close the houses are to each other. You don't put out. You can't say, "Oh, I'll let my house burn down. I'm going to be pious." Why? Because an ember is just going to go over to your neighbor's house, and there's going to be a threat to people's lives. It could create a whole conflagration. Right? So therefore you're obligated to put it out. Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, lo holchu b'pikuach nefesh acher harov. So Shmuel is quoted as saying that when it comes to pikuach nefesh, we don't rely on a majority of a population. Now what that means is as follows. Hey Chidami, what's the case? Inei medi'ika tisha Yisrael v'kusi echad beinayu ru b'Yisrael ninhu. So what are you going to tell me? That if there are 9 Jews in the neighborhood and 1 Kutite, one Samaritan, where you're not allowed to save the Samaritan's life because he's considered an enemy of the Jewish people. So I don't understand, says the Gemara. That seems to be self-evident that since you have a majority of Israelites, obviously you save the whole chatzir. So palga upalga, safek nefashos la'akel. Even if there's 50% kusim and 50% Yisrael, you still have to go safek nefashos is la'akel, and we always say 50-50 is like you got to go to be saved life. So ela deika tisha kusim Yisrael echad. The alternative is that let's say you have 9 kutim and 1 Yisrael. So there you might think that you should not save anyone in the chutzner because you go after the majority. But the Gemara says even that is hanami pshita. Dahavle kavua b'chol kavua kemechzal mechzadami. But that also should be obvious because it's called kavua. Now, what is the case of kavua? We've learned this before, but we learned it in the case of kosher meat versus non-kosher meat. If you have 10 butcher shops and 9 of them are kosher and 1 of them is non-kosher, there's a special halacha l'moshe misinai that is that if you walk into that marketplace and purchase meat, and now you don't know whether the meat came from the kosher butcher shop or the non-kosher butcher shop, it's irrelevant which butcher shops how many butcher shops were kosher, how many were non-kosher. Since you went into a place where there was this mixture, the halacha l'Moshe Sinai says you view it as a 50-50 situation, and therefore the meat is usher. In this case, you'd also view it as a 50-50 situation because there's a fire in the chutzner where there's 9 kusim and 1 Jew. It's like a 50-50 situation, and therefore you'd have to put out the fire. That also should be obvious. So the Gemara says, Lo tzricha de parish l'chutzner acheres. The answer is as follows. We're talking about a case where a group from chutzner A traveled to chutzner B where the fire is, and now we don't know which residents of chutzner A traveled to chutzner B. Mahu de tema called de parish meruba parish kamash malan. You might think that here we're talking not about a case of kavua anymore. We're talking about a case of migrating out of the established group. And so we could argue that whoever leaves the established group, just like we do by the case of meat, if you find a piece of meat that already was taken out of that marketplace, then you go according to the majority. Right? So here too, maybe if you have 1 or 2 people that leave that chutzner where there's a majority of kusim, you could assume that the people who are in this new chutzner where the fire is are kusim, and therefore you don't have a right to put out the fire. Kamash malan de laholchu b'vikuach nefesh achar harov. That case is also, we're telling you the chiddush that we don't follow the majority when it comes to pikuach nefesh. So the Gemara now challenges us, Eini, is this really so? V'ha'amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Tisha kusim v'Yisrael echad ba'osa chatzar mefakchen, b'chatzar acheres ein mefakchen. Rabbi Yochanan was quoted as saying is that if you have the chatzar where the 9 kusim and 1 Israelite are dwelling, so then if there's a fire there, you violate Shabbos. But if they all migrate to another courtyard, and then there's a fire there, then you don't put out the fire because we assume that in that case we go after the majority. And how can you therefore tell me that you still put out the fire? So lo kasha hada parish kulu hada parish mikzasayu. The answer is, says the Gemara, is that it depends. When only 1 or 2 people from the chutzner where there was a majority of kusim, they leave and go into chutzner B where the fire is, then we agree with Rabbi Yochanan. You don't put out the fire because we assume that there are kusim in that courtyard, and you just leave them alone. Let them fend for themselves. When we know that the majority or all of the people from chutzner A migrated over to chutzner B, and then there was a fire, since then there's the assumption that there's a Jew there with them, so then even though there's a majority of kusim, we don't reckon with pikuach nefesh, with kavua, with called the parish, we just say it's pikuach nefesh, and we have to put out the fire. We don't worry about who's the majority and who's the minority. Okay, this is where we'll hold it for today.